Okay, welcome back to another episode of Retro Muscle. Today's episode is about the 1977 Mr. America. But before I continue, I would like to make it clear that this is the 1977 AAU Mr. America. The reason I'm making the distinction is because several bodybuilding organizations at the time, like the IFBB, also held an annual Mr. America contest. I think it's safe to say, though, that the AAU title was the most coveted of them all. Before we talk about 1977, I think we should go back one year. In 1976, the National Physique Committee was introduced to the AAU, becoming a completely separate body from all other amateur sports like weightlifting. Ralph Countryman was the chairman of the Physique Committee, and he was the one that made all of this happen. Okay, back to 1977. The promoter for the entire show was Ken Sprague, who had also been the owner of Gold's Gym at the time. And I was wondering why him specifically, like why was Ken Sprague the guy picked for such a big show like this? And the more research I did, I found out that Ken actually donated a large amount of money to the AAU and put in a bid to host the event. And Countryman agreed to it. And I got to say, this was such a smart move on everyone's part because Sprague definitely knew how to organize and promote an event. Saturday, July 16th, 1977 was not only the day of the nation's most sought-after physique title, but now will also be remembered as Mr. America Day. Sprague organized a parade that would start at 11 a.m. on Ocean Avenue and make its way down to the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium. At the time, this was California's second largest parade. It included 14 marching bands from the Northwest, drill teams, floats, clowns, elephants. Yep, you heard me, even elephants. The parade went on for an hour and a half, drawing a crowd of over 100,000 people. But before any of these festivities went on, the day started much earlier for the competitors. All 38 contestants met at the Santa Monica Holiday Inn to be interviewed by the official judges of the show. There were 7 judges in total, and they were former Mr. America and Mr. Universe Chris Dickerson, who was representing the Metropolitan AAU, Jim Mannion, former Mr. Pennsylvania, representing Allegheny Mountain AAU. There was also Len Boslin, a former Mr. New Jersey who was representing New Jersey AAU. Ed Jubenville, a world-famous muscle control expert who represented the New England territory. There was also Ken Peterson and Ken Daggs that both represented the Mid-Atlantic AAU. And finally, Clarence Bass, former weightlifting champion and present legal advisor to the NPC, was the final judge. Okay, let's get on to prejudging. It's 1 p.m. at the Civic Auditorium with over 2,000 in attendance. The men were broken up into groups of height class. You had under 5'7" that was the short class. 5'7" up to 5'10" was the medium class, and 5'10" and over was the tall class. Okay, now I'm actually going to list all the competitors because I'm actually pretty fortunate because this is one of the few competitions that I've covered that actually gave an entire list of all the competitors. And not only that, I have some pictures too that'll go along with the names. So let's start with competitor number 1, Don Peterson. Number 2 was Tom Platz. Number 3 was Lawrence Gordon. Competitor number 4 was Bob May. Number 5 was Don Dawson. 6 was Bill Register. Number 7 was Dom DeBetta. Number 8 was Andres Colling. 9 was Ron Neff. And number 10 was Ron Teufel. Number 11 was Bob Jotkowicz. So it looks like 2 competitors dropped out, or there was some sort of issue, because we're going to skip over to competitor 14. Lance Dreher. 15 was Bob Reese. Number 16 was Pat Ruel. Competitor number 17 was Dom Coroniti. 18 was Dave Johns. Number 19 was Alex McNeil. 20 was Jim Pittman. Number 21 was Bill Chapatone. Competitor number 22 was Nate LeBlanc. 23 was Tom James. Number 24 was Charles Amato. Competitor number 25 was Larry Gordon. Number 26 was Alan Katoa. Number 27 was Doug Beaver. Number 28 was Vic Sepke. 29 was Sam Sanchez. Competitor number 30 was C.F. Smith. 31 was Benny Crawford. Competitor number 33 was Clinton Byerl. 34 was Floyd Odom. Competitor number 35 was Saladin El Amin. 36 was Pete Grimkowski. 37 was Denny Holmes. Number 38 was Dave Rogers. 39 was Louis Perrotta. Competitor number 40 was Manuel Perry. And finally, number 41 was Dave Dupree. After comparing all 38 contestants for over 4 hours, prejudging came to a close. The night show started around 8 p.m., drawing a sold-out crowd of over 3,200 people. And there was actually a few famous faces in the crowd, and a few pictured here are Earl Maynard, John Grimmick and his wife, and even Zabo Kowalski. After everyone had been settled in, a 20-piece orchestra led by Ed Zelliff performed an original composition throughout the night. As the music continued to play, the curtains parted to reveal a 30-foot American flag backgrounding the stage. Each contestant stood shoulder to shoulder, displaying the nation's top physiques. The host of the evening was John Barazzini, who presented the night's first guest poser, who was the IFBB Mr. World, Bill Grant. After Grant's routine, the curtains parted once again, revealing all the competitors, mentally getting ready for their own posing routines. This is probably my favorite part of the entire show, and it's the unique lighting setup that they had for the individual posing routines. So it seemed that there were 3 individual posing platforms. Each one was illuminated from the side and from the rear, as opposed to your standard lighting, which is kind of like a spotlight that's overhead. I think many people like myself enjoyed this attempt at an alternative style of lighting. I read some negative things in the Muscular development that I used to source some of this information. And they had said a lot of people didn't like it because some poses for certain bodybuilders, they got lost in the shadows, and then some were just too overblown. But since we're talking about negative things, another thing I found was Serge Nubret was supposed to guest pose that evening, but was replaced last minute. It was never stated anywhere, but I believe his replacement for that night was Robbie Robinson. The closer I look, I found out that the AAU and IFBB together held a meeting to address this issue, and they had said that Nubret was actually working on an expose about the IFBB. So, I mean, I guess I'm not surprised that they kind of axed him at the last minute. Of course, politics and bodybuilding, it affects all angles, not even when you're just competing, but when you're just trying to do a side gig, which is guest posing. But anyway, I don't want to talk about the negative things about this show. Let's talk about the positive things. Let's get back to the individual posing routines. After all of the competitors finished, the show went into a brief intermission, but this was no ordinary break. The audience was treated to a sensational balancing act performed by the duo named David and Goliath. Their actual names were Fred Randall and Sammy Burke. Okay, we're going to talk about the class winners, then the subdivision awards, like Best Arms and Most Muscular, and then we'll get to the overall title. All right, I'm going to do top 5 for every category. In the short class, placing 5th, we have number 9, Ron Neff. Coming in 4th place, number 8, Andres Colling. In 3rd, we had competitor number 1, Don Peterson. Placing 2nd was number 2, Tom Platz. And the winner of the 1977 Mr. America short class was number 10, Ron Teufel. And well-deserved, I got to say, because, out of everybody, he was the most conditioned. He was definitely the biggest. He's got more of that blocky look that, is not the most aesthetic, but I give him a lot of credit because this guy always seemed like he was diced. Okay, on to the medium class. Placing 5th was number 7, Pat Ruel. Coming in 4th place was competitor number 25, Larry Gordon. In 3rd, we had number 27, Doug Beaver. In 2nd place, number 30, C.F. Smith, who I got to say, this guy I was truly impressed with. I've read a few articles in Iron Man from him before, and I had no idea that he had so much potential and that he was doing these major competitions. He's kind of a name that is sort of overshadowed by these big stars. But anyway, on to first place in the medium class, we have number 18, Dave Johns. Okay, and finally the tall class, placing 5th, number 41, Dave Dupree. In 4th, we had number 38, Dave Rogers. Coming in 3rd was number 36, Pete Grimkowski. And I know a lot of people out there are big Grimco fans, and so am I. And they're probably saying like, oh, he's got screwed or whatever. But something I thought was pretty interesting. Only a month before, in June, he actually competed in the IFBB Mr. America. So again, I wonder if like any of those politics go into the final score. Anyway, coming in second place was number 33, Clint Byerl. But I can understand why, because coming in first, number 40, Manuel Perry, was going in as the favorite for the entire show. And I got to say, I get it. I mean, not only is this guy tall and muscular, but he's also aesthetic. But I heard his one little bit of kryptonite was his back. Okay, that's all the class winners. Instead of going into detail of all the body part awards, I'm just gonna post it here. And like I've said in my other videos, if you guys want more information about this show, check out my Instagram page. That's at Retro Muscle Mags. I'm gonna post plenty of the articles and pictures that I've gathered throughout my research from my magazine collection. So please check that out for more. Okay, let's go on to the overall title. Before the final decision was made, a special guest was introduced to present the award to the overall winner. Mae West, the famous film actress, was brought out, and she actually went over to Dave Johns to hand him over the title. She actually commented and made, I don't even know if this is appropriate to say, but she said, "You have all the right parts in the right places." It's quite a compliment. Yeah, so that was the 1977 AAU Mr. America, and I think it rightfully went to Dave Johns. I had read in some older articles that he was actually the favorite for the 76, but Skallick came out of nowhere and sort of beat him in Philly, but I think this is well-deserved. I guess you can make the argument that Manuel Perry, he went from winning the Mr. USA that year to going to that show, and he was definitely the favorite, but I don't know. I think Dave Johns overall was the most muscular. As you could see, he won the award and was just, had the best overall package in general that night. Please like this video, share with your friends, subscribe to the channel. There's much more where this came from, so please stay tuned, guys.